Marcus Sterling sits in his corner office, staring at the letter in his hands, his face pale with disbelief. The company letterhead is unfamiliar, but the signature at the bottom makes his blood run cold. Sarah Chen, the woman he fired 3 years ago? The single mother he humiliated in front of his entire board? "Mr. Sterling?" His secretary's voice crackles through the intercom. "The new owners are here for the transition meeting." Marcus looks up from the letter, his hands trembling slightly. The letter is brief, professional, devastating. His company is being acquired. His debts are being paid off. His employees are being saved. And the woman who's doing it all is walking through his door in 5 minutes. He remembers that day clearly. Sarah standing in his office, desperate and pleading, while he tore apart her character and her choices. He remembers the way she looked at him when he told her she would never amount to anything. He remembers thinking he was destroying a nobody. The door opens, and Sarah Chen walks in wearing a designer suit and carrying a briefcase. She's no longer the desperate single mother he once knew. She's the woman who just bought his entire world. "Hello, Marcus," she says calmly. "We need to talk."
Marcus Sterling built his tech consulting company from the ground up, and at 45, he runs it like a military operation. Sterling Solutions employs 200 people across 3 offices, and Marcus controls every decision with an iron fist. He believes success comes from eliminating weakness, and he sees weakness everywhere. His corner office overlooks downtown Seattle, filled with awards and photographs of him shaking hands with important clients. Marcus wears custom suits, drives a BMW, and lives in a penthouse that costs more per month than most people earn in a year. He's unmarried, childless, and proud of his focus on business above all else. Marcus hires people based on their ability to work long hours without complaint. He fires people for showing emotion, asking for time off, or mentioning personal problems. He calls it maintaining standards. Others call it being heartless. Sarah Chen used to be his assistant. For 2 years, she managed his calendar, handled his correspondence, and worked 60-hour weeks while raising her 8-year-old daughter Emma alone. Sarah was always the first to arrive and the last to leave, quietly efficient and completely reliable. Marcus barely noticed her as a person. She was just another employee, useful but replaceable. He never asked about her daughter, never acknowledged when she stayed late to finish his projects, never realized that she was taking business courses online during her lunch breaks. But Sarah was smart. During her breaks, she studied Marcus's business deals, learning how he negotiated contracts and managed client relationships. She watched him make decisions, noting what worked and what didn't. She was teaching herself everything she could about business, even though Marcus never noticed her efforts. The trouble started when Emma got sick with pneumonia. Sarah had to take 3 days off work to stay at the hospital, calling Marcus every few hours to update him on urgent matters. She worked from her phone in the hospital waiting room, handling client calls between conversations with doctors. When Sarah returned to work, Marcus called her into his office. She expected understanding, maybe even concern for her daughter's health. Instead, she found him furious about her absence. "This is exactly why I don't hire single mothers," Marcus said, not looking up from his computer. "You people always put your kids before your jobs." Sarah stood quietly, accepting the criticism because she needed the job. She didn't defend herself or explain how she had managed to handle his most urgent matters even while caring for her sick daughter. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience," she said simply. "Emma is better now, and it won't happen again." "No, it won't," Marcus replied coldly, "because you're on notice. One more personal crisis, and you're gone." Sarah nodded and returned to her desk. But something had changed. The respect she once felt for Marcus was gone. replaced by a quiet determination to prove him wrong. She started working even harder, not for him, but for herself and her daughter. Over the following months, Sarah watched Marcus make increasingly poor decisions. He alienated key clients with his arrogance, ignored his employees' suggestions, and focused more on his image than his business. She could see the company's problems clearly, but Marcus dismissed her observations as unimportant. Sarah began documenting everything. She kept records of client complaints, employee turnover, and financial inconsistencies. She wasn't planning anything specific, just gathering information that might be useful someday. The breaking point came when Sarah asked for a small raise. She'd been working for Marcus for 2 years, handling responsibilities far beyond her job description, and she needed the extra money to pay for Emma's after-school care. Marcus laughed at her request. "You think you deserve more money? You're an assistant. You answer phones and file papers. Anyone can do your job. I do much more than answer phones. I manage client relationships, handle contract negotiations, and coordinate with the development team. I've saved you thousands of dollars in consultant fees. You've saved me nothing. You're replaceable. There are hundreds of single mothers who'd take your job for less money. Maybe I should find one of them." Sarah felt something break inside her, but she kept her voice steady. "I understand," she said. "I won't ask again." But Marcus wasn't finished. He seemed to enjoy her discomfort, feeding off her obvious disappointment. "You know what your problem is, Sarah? You think being a single mother makes you special. It doesn't. It makes you a liability." Sarah looked at him for a long moment, and Marcus saw something shift in her eyes. Not anger or hurt, but a cold, calculating determination that made him suddenly uncomfortable. "I see," she said softly. "Thank you for clarifying your position." She turned and walked back to her desk, but Marcus felt like he had just lost something important, though he couldn't identify what it was.
The quarterly board meeting takes place in Sterling Solutions' main conference room, with Marcus presenting financial projections to 6 board members and 3 potential investors. Sarah sits in the corner, taking notes and managing the presentation materials, invisible to everyone except when Marcus needs something. Marcus is in his element, commanding the room with charts and graphs showing steady growth. He talks about expansion plans, new contracts, and increased market share. The board members nod approvingly, impressed by his confidence and apparent success. But Sarah knows the real numbers. She's seen the unpaid invoices, the client complaints, the employee resignations. She's watched Marcus manipulate the data to hide serious problems, and she's documented everything. "As you can see," Marcus says, clicking to his final slide, "Sterling Solutions is positioned for exceptional growth over the next 5 years. We're looking at a potential 30% increase in revenue." One of the investors, a woman named Patricia Wells, raises her hand. "What about employee retention? I've heard rumors about high turnover." Marcus waves dismissively. "We maintain high standards. Employees who can't meet those standards are replaced. It's simple business efficiency." "But doesn't high turnover increase costs? Training, recruitment, lost productivity?" "Those costs are minimal compared to the benefits of maintaining quality. We don't coddle employees here. We expect results." Sarah watches the exchange, knowing that Marcus is lying. The company has lost 15 key employees in the past year, including 2 senior developers who took important clients with them. The replacement costs alone have exceeded $200,000. Patricia looks unsatisfied, but doesn't press further. Marcus moves on to questions about technology infrastructure, client satisfaction, and competitive advantages. He answers confidently, painting a picture of a thriving company with unlimited potential. Then Patricia asks a question that changes everything. "What about the Henderson account? I heard there were some issues with project delivery." Marcus's smile falters for just a moment. The Henderson account is Sterling Solutions' biggest client, worth over $2 million annually. Sarah knows that Henderson is threatening to terminate their contract due to repeated delays and poor communication.
The Henderson account is solid, Marcus says. We've had some minor scheduling adjustments, but the relationship is strong. Sarah feels her heart racing. She knows this is completely false. Henderson's CEO sent a furious email just yesterday, demanding immediate improvements or they would find a new vendor. Marcus deleted the email and told Sarah to ignore any calls from Henderson's office. That's interesting, Patricia says, checking her phone, because I just received a text from James Henderson. He's terminating your contract effective immediately. He says your company has been unresponsive to their concerns for months. The room falls silent. Marcus's face turns red, and Sarah can see him struggling to maintain his composure. That's impossible, Marcus says, his voice tight. We just spoke with Henderson last week. Everything was fine. Actually, Sarah says quietly, her voice cutting through the tension, Henderson has been trying to reach you for 6 weeks. You've been avoiding their calls. Every head in the room turns to look at Sarah. Marcus stares at her with shock and fury, unable to believe she just contradicted him publicly. Sarah, you're mistaken, Marcus says, his voice dangerously low. Return to your desk immediately. I'm not mistaken, Sarah replies, standing up and pulling out a folder. I have documentation of every call, every email, every complaint. Henderson sent 14 messages requesting meetings about project delays. You ignored all of them. The board members exchange glances, suddenly interested in what the quiet assistant has to say. That's enough, Marcus snaps, his control completely shattered. You're fired. Pack your things and get out. Actually, Sarah says calmly, before I leave, I think the board should see these. She places the folder on the conference table. Inside are copies of client complaints, employee resignation letters, and financial discrepancies that paint a very different picture of Sterling Solutions than the one Marcus presented. Patricia picks up the folder and begins reading. Her expression grows increasingly concerned as she reviews the documents. These are serious allegations, Patricia says, looking at Marcus. Are you saying these are false? Marcus looks cornered, desperate. My assistant is obviously disgruntled. She's been looking for revenge ever since I refused to give her a raise she didn't deserve. These documents show systematic mismanagement, client complaints dating back 18 months, employee grievances that were never addressed, financial irregularities that suggest possible fraud. She's lying, Marcus says, his voice rising. She's a bitter single mother who can't accept that she's not management material. The room goes quiet. Sarah stands perfectly still, letting Marcus's words hang in the air. She doesn't defend herself or argue. She just waits. Mr. Henderson, Patricia says slowly, did you just dismiss these concerns by attacking this woman's personal life? Marcus realizes his mistake, but it's too late. I didn't mean... Patricia interrupts. You called her a bitter single mother in front of the entire board, after she provided documentation of serious business problems. Sarah picks up her notepad and heads for the door. At the threshold, she turns back to face the room. For what it's worth, she says quietly, I was never bitter. I was just paying attention.
Sarah drives home in her 12-year-old Honda, her hands shaking as she grips the steering wheel. She's unemployed again, with no savings and a daughter depending on her. The documentation she provided to the board felt like the right thing to do, but now she wonders if she's just destroyed her own future. Emma is waiting at their neighbor's apartment, doing homework at the kitchen table. At 11 years old, Emma is used to her mother's work stress, but she can tell something is different when Sarah picks her up. Mom, you look sad, Emma says as they walk to their own apartment. Did something bad happen at work? Sarah considers lying, protecting her daughter from the truth. But Emma deserves honesty, even if it's scary. I lost my job today, Sarah says, unlocking their door. I stood up for what was right, and it cost me everything. Emma hugs her tightly. We'll be okay, Mom. We always are. Sarah holds her daughter, trying not to cry. Emma's right. They've survived worse situations. But Sarah is tired of just surviving. She's tired of being treated like she doesn't matter, tired of watching incompetent men make decisions that affect people's lives. That night, after Emma goes to bed, Sarah sits at her kitchen table with her laptop, updating her resume. She has 2 years of experience as an executive assistant, but she knows how that will look to potential employers. She's just another single mother who couldn't handle the pressure.
The next morning, Sarah receives a call from Patricia Wells. The investor wants to meet for coffee, and Sarah agrees, curious about what she might want to discuss. They meet at a small cafe downtown, and Patricia gets straight to the point. "That was impressive yesterday. You took a huge risk to expose the truth about Sterling Solutions. I couldn't let him keep lying. Too many people depend on that company for their livelihoods." "Including you," Patricia points out. "You sacrificed your own job to protect people you barely know." Sarah shrugs. "It was the right thing to do." Patricia studies her carefully. "What do you know about venture capital?" "Not much," Sarah admits. "I know it involves investing in companies, but I don't understand the details. I run a small investment firm. We specialize in identifying undervalued opportunities and turning them around. I think you have a natural talent for seeing what others miss." Sarah feels a flicker of interest. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to hire you, not as an assistant, but as an analyst. You'd help me evaluate potential investments, identify problems before they become crises, and work with management teams to improve performance." The offer is tempting, but Sarah knows she's not qualified. "I don't have an MBA. I never went to business school." "You just exposed a major fraud that our entire due diligence team missed. You have something more valuable than formal education. You have instincts." Sarah thinks about Emma, about their tiny apartment, about the stack of unpaid bills on her kitchen counter. This could be the chance she's been waiting for, but it feels too good to be true. "What would I need to do?" "Learn everything you can about business analysis, financial modeling, and strategic planning. I'll provide the training, but you'll need to work harder than you've ever worked before." Sarah nods. "I'm used to working hard." "This would be different," Patricia warns. "You'd be making decisions that affect millions of dollars and hundreds of jobs. The pressure would be enormous." "More pressure than being a single mother living paycheck to paycheck?" Sarah asks. Patricia smiles. "Fair point. Are you interested?" Sarah thinks about Marcus, about the way he dismissed her concerns and mocked her situation. She thinks about all the men like him who see single mothers as liabilities instead of assets. "Yes," she says firmly. "I'm very interested." Meanwhile, Marcus is dealing with the fallout from the board meeting. Henderson's contract termination sends shockwaves through the company, and other clients begin asking questions about Sterling Solutions' reliability. The board demands answers, and Marcus finds himself under scrutiny for the first time in his career. He tries to blame Sarah for the company's problems, telling anyone who would listen that she sabotaged him out of spite. But the documentation she provided is too comprehensive to dismiss, and Patricia Wells has already shared it with other board members. Within a week, Marcus receives a formal notice from the board. He's being placed on administrative leave while they conduct a full investigation into the company's operations. His access to the office is suspended, and he's prohibited from contacting clients or employees. Marcus sits in his penthouse, staring out at the city he once felt he owned. His phone rings constantly with calls from reporters, creditors, and former associates who want to distance themselves from the scandal. He ignores them all, focusing instead on his growing hatred for Sarah Chen. He tells himself that she's destroyed his life out of jealousy and spite. He refuses to acknowledge that she simply exposed the truth about his failures. In his mind, she's the villain, and he's the victim. But deep down, Marcus knows that Sarah was right about everything. His company is failing, his employees are unhappy, and his clients are leaving. He's been so focused on maintaining his image that he forgot to maintain his business.
2 years pass, and Marcus's world has completely collapsed. Sterling Solutions is bankrupt, sold off in pieces to pay creditors. The board investigation uncovered extensive financial mismanagement, and Marcus faces multiple lawsuits from former employees and clients. His penthouse is gone, his cars are repossessed, and his reputation is destroyed. Marcus now works as a mid-level consultant for a small firm, earning a fraction of his former salary.
He rents a studio apartment in a neighborhood he once would have considered beneath him. Every day is a reminder of how far he has fallen. But the worst part isn't the financial ruin, it's the isolation. Marcus burned so many bridges during his years of success that he has no real friends to support him through his downfall. His former colleagues avoid him, his business associates won't return his calls, and even his family members treat him with a mixture of pity and disgust. Sarah Chen, meanwhile, has thrived under Patricia Wells' mentorship. She completes her MBA through an accelerated program, working days and studying nights while raising Emma. Patricia provides her with real-world experience in financial analysis, strategic planning, and business operations. Sarah discovers that she has a natural talent for identifying failing companies and developing turnaround strategies. She's analytical without being cold, strategic without being ruthless. She understands that businesses succeed when they serve their employees and customers, not just their owners. After 18 months with Patricia's firm, Sarah proposes starting her own investment company. She's identified a gap in the market: successful businesses that are struggling due to poor management rather than fundamental flaws. These companies can be acquired cheaply and turned around quickly with the right leadership. Patricia agrees to be Sarah's first investor, providing the capital to launch Chen Investments. Sarah's first acquisition is a small manufacturing company whose owner is retiring. She keeps all the employees, improves working conditions, and increases efficiency through better management practices. Within 6 months, the company's profits double. Sarah's success attracts attention from other investors, and Chen Investments grows rapidly. She acquires 3 more companies in her second year, each one a business with good fundamentals but poor leadership. Her reputation for fair dealing and employee-focused management spreads throughout the business community. Marcus watches Sarah's rise from a distance, reading about her success in the business journals that once featured his own achievements. Each article feels like a personal attack, a reminder of how thoroughly she has surpassed him. He tells himself that Sarah got lucky, that she had help from Patricia Wells, that she's benefiting from positive press coverage that he never received. But he knows the truth. Sarah is succeeding because she's everything he never was. She's honest, hardworking, and genuinely cares about the people who work for her. The final blow comes when Marcus learns that Sterling Solutions' assets are being auctioned off to pay remaining debts. The company he built from nothing will be completely erased, his intellectual property sold to the highest bidder. Marcus attends the auction, hoping to buy back some small piece of his former empire. He has almost no money, but he can't bear the thought of strangers owning what he created. The auction is held in a downtown hotel conference room, with about 30 potential buyers examining Sterling Solutions' remaining assets. Marcus sits in the back, wearing his only decent suit and trying to look like he belongs. The auctioneer begins with small items: office furniture, computer equipment, company vehicles. Marcus watches helplessly as his former possessions are sold for pennies on the dollar. He doesn't have enough money to bid on anything significant. Then the auctioneer announces the final lot: Sterling Solutions' client list, proprietary software, and business processes. This is the heart of the company, the foundation that could allow someone to rebuild what Marcus lost. Bidding starts at $50,000 and quickly escalates. Marcus knows he can't compete, but he's mesmerized by the process. Someone will buy his life's work and probably do better with it than he ever did. The bidding reaches $200,000, then $300,000. Marcus watches the numbers climb, each bid representing years of his life being reduced to a commodity. Finally, one bidder emerges victorious, winning the auction with a bid of $450,000. Marcus doesn't recognize the woman who's been bidding, but she looks familiar somehow. She's well-dressed, confident, and clearly wealthy enough to throw around hundreds of thousands of dollars without hesitation. The woman approaches the auction table to complete her purchase, and Marcus gets a clear view of her face. His blood runs cold when he realizes who she is. Sarah Chen has just bought the remains of his company. She signs the paperwork calmly, shaking hands with the auctioneer and the legal representatives. She doesn't look around the room or acknowledge Marcus's presence, but somehow she knows she's aware he's there. As Sarah leaves the auction, Marcus feels something break inside him. She hasn't just succeeded, she's claimed ownership of his failure. She's literally bought his life's work, and she probably paid for it with the profits from her own success. Marcus sits in the empty conference room long after everyone else has left, staring at the auction table where his company was sold. He realizes that Sarah Chen has won completely, and he's lost everything that ever mattered to him. The woman he once dismissed as worthless now owns the business he spent 20 years building. The single mother he mocked is now wealthy enough to buy his dreams as an afterthought.
3 months after the auction, Marcus receives an unexpected call from Sarah's assistant. Chen Investments wants to meet with him about a potential consulting opportunity. Marcus is skeptical. Why would Sarah want to work with him after everything that happened? But he's desperate for work, and the meeting fee alone would help him pay his overdue rent. He agrees to meet at Chen Investments' downtown office, a sleek space that reminds him of his old headquarters. Sarah greets him in her conference room, looking polished and professional. She's wearing a designer suit that probably costs more than Marcus makes in a month, but she's still recognizably the quiet assistant who once managed his calendar. "Thank you for coming," Sarah says, gesturing for him to sit. "I have a proposition for you." Marcus sits across from her, feeling like he's in a job interview. "What kind of proposition?" "I'm launching a new division of my company. We're going to specialize in helping failing businesses turn around their operations. I need someone with experience in business management, someone who understands what it feels like to lose everything." Marcus stares at her, unsure whether this is genuine or elaborate revenge. "Why would Sarah want to work with me?" "Because you know what failure looks like," Sarah says simply. "You've made every mistake a business owner can make. That experience has value. You want me to help other companies avoid becoming like Sterling Solutions?" "Exactly," Sarah nods. "You'd work with struggling CEOs, help them identify their blind spots, and guide them toward better management practices. It would be consulting work, but with a focus on preventing the kind of collapse you experienced." Marcus feels a mix of humiliation and hope. She's offering him a chance to rebuild his career, but it's based entirely on his failures rather than his successes. "What would the job pay?" he asks. $70,000 to start, with performance bonuses based on client success rates. It's not your old salary, but it's enough to live on while you rebuild your reputation. Marcus considers the offer. It's a lifeline, but accepting it means acknowledging that Sarah has surpassed him completely. He would be working for the woman he once fired, earning a fraction of what he used to make. "I need to ask you something," Marcus says finally. "Why are you doing this? After everything I said to you, everything I did, why would you help me?" Sarah is quiet for a long moment, considering her answer. "Because I know what it feels like to be judged for circumstances beyond your control. I know what it's like to be dismissed because of who you are instead of what you can do." "I was cruel to you," Marcus admits. "I said things that were unforgivable." "You were," Sarah agrees. "But holding on to that anger would only hurt me. I'd rather focus on building something positive." Marcus feels tears threatening, but he fights them back. "I don't deserve this opportunity." "Maybe not," Sarah says. "But my clients deserve the best help they can get. And whether I like it or not, your failures taught you lessons that could save other businesses." She slides a contract across the table. "The offer stands for 24 hours. Take some time to think about it." Marcus picks up the contract, scanning the terms. It's generous, but not overly so. A fair deal for someone starting over. "There's one condition," Sarah adds. "If you take this job, you work for me. Not with me, for me.
I make the decisions, I set the policies, and I determine your assignments. Can you handle that? Marcus meets her eyes, seeing the quiet strength that he once dismissed as weakness. She's offering him a chance to rebuild, but only if he's willing to accept her authority completely. I can handle it, he says. Good, Sarah replies, standing up. Think about it overnight. Let me know your decision tomorrow. As Marcus leaves the office, he passes a framed photograph on Sarah's desk. It shows her and Emma at her MBA graduation, both of them smiling proudly. Emma's 14 now, confident and bright, clearly thriving despite their difficult early years. Marcus realizes that Sarah didn't just survive his cruelty. She used it as fuel to build something better. She's created a life of success and meaning, while he's spent 3 years trapped in bitterness and regret. Walking to his car, he knows he'll accept the job, not because he needs the money, though he does, but because working for Sarah Chen might be the only way he can ever become the man he should have been all along. The irony isn't lost on him. The woman he once considered his greatest failure has become his only hope for redemption.